Picture yourself at a lively dinner party where the host proudly announces that tonight's menu was inspired by Blue Zone wisdom. So, sweet potatoes, red wine, goat cheese, and a peculiar Greek tea that tastes faintly of rosemary and existential calm. You nod, tuck into your slice of heirloom grain bread, and think, sure, blue zones, those mythical lands where people live to 100 without Botox or battery-powered scooters. But if you believe blue zones are just charming tales of centenarians and their secret Ikigai, that is their divine life purpose, you have only skimmed the surface. And this is Knowing is Winning. And today we'll talk about the news regarding the so-called blue zones of long living. Beyond the familiar lessons in Harahachi-bu, you eat until you're 80% full, tight-knit communities, and daily strolls up olive tree-dotted hills, a new wave of discoveries is rewriting our understanding of centenarian hotspots. First, a confession. The idea of blue zones was born less from a quest for vanity and more from sheer necessity. In 1999, National Geographic fellow Dan Buettner read a WHO report declaring Okinawa's disability-free life expectancy the world's longest. Intrigued, he and his colleagues traced the clues. The elders' moai's social circles, their soy-based drinks, their refusal to measure mornings in minutes rather than meaningful conversations. Over the next 2 decades, scientists methodically verified Sardinia, Icaria, Nicoya, and Loma Linda, California as true bastions of exceptional longevity. You know the drill. Largely plant-based diets, purposeful lifestyles, movement woven into daily life, strong family bonds, and an absence of fast food. But the past year has brought to light details that even seasoned blue zone aficionados might have missed. Let's start with geography itself, morphing under our noses. A 2025 scoping review from University of Santiago de Compostela added new territories to the longevity map. Beyond the original 5, it called the Oglistra in Sardinia, Icaria in Greece, Cilento in Italy's Tyrrhenian coast, a mystery municipality in Netherlands, Menorca's tranquil coves, Rugao in China's Jiangsu province, and even Martinique and Guadeloupe in the French Caribbean as regions where centenarians cluster in surprising numbers. Imagine Creole-spiced cassava bread next to wild foraged goat's milk cheese, all sustained by volcanic soils and salt-laden sea breezes, proving that the longevity recipe is adaptable, not one size fits all. Then there is the Singapore story, which could have leapt from the pages of a sci-fi novel. Unlike Okinawa or Icaria, Singapore wasn't a remote island with ancient traditions passed down through generations. It was and is, a metropolis in a hurry. In 1960, life expectancy hovered around 65 years, briskly doubling to nearly 85 by 2019. So, how did this global crossroads achieve blue zone status without centuries of, goat herding? Its secret wasn't a secret at all, but a deliberate policy. Public health cinemas playing Eat Your Greens commercials. Urban planning that wove parks into high-rise canyons and public playgrounds, markets, and hawker centers which encourage residents of all ages to interact naturally in their daily lives. In effect, Singapore engineered blue zone benefits, proving that longevity can be as much an urban design challenge as a dietary one. Meanwhile, Okinawa quietly asked to be delisted. Over the past decade, younger generations indulge in Western fast food, sugary drinks, and sedentary office jobs, causing obesity rates and heart disease markers to creep upward. The same rickety wooden stools where elders once gathered for sweet potato porridge now anchor Starbucks cabs and smartphone scrolling. Don Buettner lamented that if globalization continues unchallenged, blue zones may vanish as we know them, victims of their own desirability, ironically undone by the very affluence their longevity inspired. This tipping point underscores a critical new insight. Blue zones aren't static museums of tradition, but living lab experiments in cultural resilience. That is why researchers are now zooming in on epigenetics, the way your genes toggle on or off in response to diet, stress, and community. In Oglistra, for instance, blood samples from 100-year-olds revealed specific DNA methylation patterns that seem to preserve youthful cellular function well past the European average. This methylation age clocks tick slower in families steeped in sheep herding and goat cheese production, suggesting that mud splatter work boots and unfiltered mountain air may rewrite your biological calendar. But parallel to epigenetics, microbiome aficionados are turning heads with findings that blue zone inhabitants host remarkably diverse gut ecosystems. A joint study out of Athens and Sardinia found that centenarians on Icaria and in Oglistra share high levels of Prevotella copri, a bacterium linked to efficient plant fiber fermentation and anti-inflammatory compounds. Less publicized but equally fascinating researchers recorded elevated short-chain fatty acids in these populations, molecules that fuel colon cells and bolster the immune system. In short, your gut bugs might be your best bodyguards if you feed them garlic, beans, and a drizzle of local olive oil. Of course, real life rarely runs a single variable. Enter the realm of social prescribing, a concept sweeping through European health services. Instead of doling out statins, doctors now prescribe weekly basket weaving classes, communal gardening, or group brisk walks, activities mimicking the natural movement and social bonds found in blue zones. Early trials in Cornwall and Brittany reported significant drops in depression scores, reduced hospital readmissions, and a surprising spike in book club attendance among retirees. In many ways, the prescription pad is evolving into a community map. Yet, for every triumph, there is a cautionary tale. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, researchers recently recorded an uptick in chronic disease markers tied to soda drink consumption and processed snacks, an echo of sorts of Okinawa's downward spiral. But instead of conceding defeat, Nicoyans are fighting back by hosting cocoa foraging expeditions and reviving traditional corn and bean festivals. In the Middle East, a handful of Gulf state labs are exploring whether intermittent fasting, long practiced in Islam's holy month of Ramadan, can mimic the cellular repair processes of blue zone residents. Early data from Riyadh and Muscat show that periodic daily fasting may upregulate protective proteins like sirtuins, echoing the molecular benefits of caloric restrictions observed in Sardinia's shepherds. The next step? Community mosques turning their courtyards into longevity hubs, where fasting tips and vegetable stew recipes replace bingo nights and backgammon tournaments. Now, shifting continents again, America's Loma Linda Seventh-day Adventists have quietly embraced a 10th pillar of blue zones: purposeful work intertwined with spiritual practice. Their lifestyle isn't just about plant-based casseroles, but weekly 7-hour Shabbat observance, in which they disconnect from digital devices and connect with neighbors over shared meals. In the world grappling with Zoom fatigue and email anxiety, this model is gaining traction beyond church doors, inspiring Office Sabbath pilot program in San Francisco and Austin. Meanwhile, tech innovators aren't sitting idle. In Germany and Switzerland, engineers are knitting together quantum-secure networks to host real-time environmental and health data from blue zone regions. Although it sounds like spy drama fodder, their goal is simple: create a digital twin of local ecosystems, tracking air quality, soil mineral composition, and even cadences of village folk singing at dawn. Overlay that with anonymized health outcomes, and scientists can simulate how tweaks in diet or built environment ripple through a population lifespan. It's longevity forecasting on steroids, minus the needle, of course. Now, closer to you, in urban corridors, architects are championing micro blue zones, embedding neighborhoods with pocket parks, edible landscapes, and porches designed to encourage spontaneous neighborly chats. In Paris, a recent pilot in Belleville turned vacant lots into communal gardens grown by seniors, toddlers, and everyone in between, reviving old communal bonds and seeding new friendships. The metamorphosis was so swift that foot traffic soared by 40%, public health hotline calls dropped, and bakery sales of rye loaves unexpectedly spiked. Apparently, when people come together to grow kale, they sometimes buy bread too. But let's not forget age verification controversies. A few years back, critics claimed Sardinia's centenarian records were padded by clerical errors and simple folklore. New cross-referencing, though, of birth and church records, however, has largely quelled those doubts, proving that those grizzled shepherds truly have clocked more trips around the sun than most European royals. Similar scrutiny in Icaria and Nicoya has validated their numbers, bolstering confidence that longevity hotspots are genuine, not just curious statistical blips. On the horizon, the concept of a Blue Zone 2.0 is emerging. An idea that longevity virtues can be distilled into actionable policies for almost any locale. Dan Buettner introduced policy changes in food, school lunches, urban design, also introduced purpose workshops and volunteer-driven social engagement in a number of US cities, which resulted in an increased life expectancy by 3 years in only about 2 years. Then, there is the Men's Shed movement in Australia, which is a grassroots initiative designed to improve men's health, well-being, and social connection, especially among older men, by creating safe, friendly community spaces where they can work on practical projects together. Although they started doing this quite a while ago, men's sheds strongly align with Blue Zone principles of purpose, or Ikigai, especially after retirement, such as social bonds and belonging, daily movement through light physical activity, and stress reduction via companionship and hands-on focus. Now, in Tokyo, for example, retirees convene in techno tea houses that blend traditional matcha ceremonies with guided VR forest bathing sessions, marrying ancient rituals with modern gadgets. So, next time someone congratulates you on finding a longevity hack, smile knowingly. The real secret isn't a single herb or a fancy device. It's an evolutionary project that spans continents, centuries, and cultures. It's about building places where people move naturally, eat plants first, bond over shared purpose, and keep one foot in ancestral rhythms while stepping boldly into tomorrow. It is proof that if we blend curiosity, culture, and a dash of healthy rebellion, we can all inherit a better map of life, longer, richer, and infinitely more connected than any Instagram trend. After all, in a tapestry of human experience, there is nothing more delightful than discovering that the real fountain of youth was a neighbor's porch swing all along. So, raise your glass of hand-pressed olive oil and remember, living to 100 is not a party trick, but a communal experience and communal masterpiece. Just like this channel, which has reached over 300,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for watching. This was Knowing is Winning, and this is a fantastic olive oil. Oh boy. This is from our friends in Greece, yes? Oh, Greeks make fantastic olive oil. Ooh. It's to you. Thank you very much for watching. This was Knowing is Winning.